It's from those minutes. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to, that date is right, I think, on the March 6th, the council meeting. So that was our regular council meeting for the month of March. Are there any errors, omissions, or questions for those minutes? Seeing none, we'll declare both sets of minutes approved as presented. And we have some pieces of correspondence that don't require any action at this time. They were mostly thank you letters. There was, right now, maybe there is two thank you letters from some of our schools, Education Center and Walter Government School. There was correspondence from the province in terms of Hurricane Fiona debris. Was there any questions on that one? Go ahead, Councilor Boyce.
Yeah, once we got it in the agenda, I called one which that I took here, council about the degree of the yard and everything. That's they've been getting the runaround saying, yep, they'll be there within a week, they'll be there in a week, and it's just not happening. So I told them okay, to give them the information that was in the letter, and give a call and told us there's nothing done about it. Maybe our property service will take it back. So they just don't seem to be doing anything with the plans.
And they more or less said in the letter that it would be done as spring comes on. So hopefully as the last of our snow goes away and be able to see what's there, hopefully it will be.
But they told them that, but what they're telling them is that yep, over there 2 weeks. And that was the truth, and then we're going to have all these phone calls, right?
Okay, and the other letter was,
Sure.
oh, sorry.
I have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I noticed that out in District 3 that there's still many trees down, especially on the 106, that have not had much attention. And I'm hoping that that those trees will be taken care of, especially for the ferry opens in a month, so that we can, provide a welcoming place and also pride in our communities as well. So to have a welcoming, I guess, place for our tourists coming from off the boat. There's still lots of trees down as well on our residential roads, and hoping that those can be taken care of in a timely manner, so we don't run into dealing with this in May and June as well. So I just wanted to add those comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I know it's a big concern for a lot of people, and of course, there's a lot of work to be done. We all admit that, a lot of work there. I took a drive in town, which the other day, and was along the number 6 going there. There's a amount of damaged trees. So we'll keep an eye on it, and if it's not getting done, as Councilor Boyle suggested, we'll have to push a little harder. Okay, that's the end of our correspondence, but I forgot another. Oh, sorry, Councilor Thompson.
Just on the last piece of correspondence there, the town of Glasgow letter. I won't go into any great detail with the letter, but it wasn't a surprise, the response. But I guess my question is to the Director of Public Works is, where are we at with the design for the sidewalk design? And will we be ready to present it to council at the next property services meeting so we can do a request for proposals?
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. We will not be ready in time for the next Government Finance meeting. We are in the design stage. We had finally got correspondence back, especially Department of Public Works, a month or so ago. We re-engaged with their consultant, develop design revisions, like that to the department a couple of weeks ago for additional questions and additional follow-up. So we are actively working on the pieces, but we're still a little ways away from ready design.
Okay, any further questions on those pieces of correspondence? I'm going to back up a little bit, almost back where I'm going ahead here. We have two new employees with us tonight that we're pleased to have at our table. So just the other side of Saran here, we have Shelley Pettibot. Welcome, Shelley. Just to her right, we have Adam McGinnis, taking over our communications role. So glad to have you both here, and we'll get you initiated.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to our presentation for this evening. We have Andrew Fraser on survey snapshot, sustainable development goals, and also quality of life survey results. So, I'll ask Andrew to speak on this. There's only one allowed to speak, and we have 10 minutes on this meeting. And Joanne will give a notice at the 9-minute mark, so you know that you're coming up to that 10-minute mark. And then we'll open it up for questions, and we'll limit the questions to one per person. So don't want to time too much for night, because you have a lot of other business to do too. But you go ahead at this point, please, Andrew. That mic is probably working there.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Sustainable development goals. So what are these sustainable development goals and where did they come from? The SDGs came from the United Nations, are part of their agenda for the 21st century, commonly known as Agenda 21. The goals for 2030 are already in place and are being implemented. They say that these SDGs need to be implemented to save the planet. When you actually study them, you will find they have little to do with saving the planet and a lot to do with control. Controlling every country, the people, their land, their resources, and how they can live. In short, it's part of a mission treatment of global governance. This is all being implemented under the trope of climate change. I would like to remind everyone, at first they said man-made global warming. That got debunked by true science. Then they said global warming. That got debunked by true science. And now they say climate change. Why the trope climate change? Well, the words climate change can never be defined either way. The weather gets hot, it's climate change. The weather gets cold, climate change. Dry, wet, no matter what the weather, it's all climate change. When some period repeats the trope climate change, they may as well be saying water is wet. Water is always wet, and the climate is always changing. Change is the only constant. Climate changed before man and will continue to change after man. They would like us to think that climate change means real pollution, which it does not. They needed a global problem, so they come up with a global solution. So-called global solution would have to be implemented by a global enforcement body into the UN, problem, reaction, solution. They knew they could not use real pollution as the world problem because real pollution is different all over the world. Real pollution can be solved with technology. They need to come up with something that could never be stopped and that their paid off media could use to scare the public with. Something they could use as an excuse to bring in Agenda 21. They come up with climate change and CO2 as the bad guy. CO2 and oxygen are the gas of life on this planet. Without them, there would be no life. Today, CO2 levels are around 400 parts per million, amongst the lowest in Earth's history. Since this is supposed to be a global problem, let's see how Canada ranks. On a global scale, Canada comes in at less than 1%. You could shut the whole country down and it would not make any difference. India and China pump more than 50%. China is building a new coal-fired power plant every 2 weeks, yet they want to shut ours down. Why is it the only Western nations that have to abide by these restrictive regulations? One of the biggest polluters is China, who is exempt. Mr. Climate Change Al Gore has a mansion on waterfront property. He said Florida and most of the East Coast will be underwater by now. Why are these places still able to get insurance? What sustainable development is really about, is to wipe out the middle class, single family homes, private vehicles, pour people out of the rural areas and put them into the cities. They will try to accomplish this through restrictive land use property policies, high gasoline prices, and other punitive measures. It calls on all governments to take control of all land use and not leave any decision making in the hand of private landowners. Their plan is to restrict your choices, limit your funds, narrow your freedoms, and take away your voice. The UN Sustainable Development Goals may sound nice and fluffy on the surface, but they are designed to destroy our sovereignty, install central planning, wealth distribution, and cripple our economy. What type of a person will want to do this to the people of Pictou County? One must remember that this is a global plan implemented locally. You do not get more local than a municipality. So what the UN does is give out grants, which I like to call bribes, to encourage municipalities to implement these democracy destroying policies through the local land use bylaws. The only thing these sustainable development goals will bring to net zero is our freedoms. I would also like to remind you they are subject to the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms as well as international law. Remember, private property is the mainstay of the free people. If you have no private property rights, you are not free. Our forefathers struggled to build everything good we have today. Many went overseas to fight, and some died for the freedoms which we enjoy. Yet there's some in this room who want to take it away with a stroke of a pen. What a disgrace. I would like to remind you the UN is an unelected body of dictators and communists. This is where these sustainable development goals come from. And you want to impose them on a free people. These land use bylaws should be made by the people of Pictou County for the people of Pictou County, not by the UN for the UN. Thank you.
Minutes if we need it for questions here, and we're going to take one question from each counselor if so needed. And are there questions for Andrew at this time? Go ahead, Councilor Dave Perkins and Councilor Peter Boyles.
Thank you, Mr. Fraser. What do you decide? Where's your home?
I reside in Pictou County.
You are a member of.
I'm a resident of Pictou County, yes.
You use the term in there, true science. I'm a retired science engineer. I don't know how you define that.
Real science, not lies, not propaganda.
Okay. I found it interesting that you touched on land use policy, that whether or not we are obligated to enter into a process on land use bylaws over the next couple of years, and it will, I hope, right, the consultation with the public. It will flow from them, I hope. Okay. I don't disagree with your statement. Private property rights mainstay of free people. That's part of what's going to drive the land use process. That document he gave us is quite an extensive document. I have read through this because it's quite political. Word I would do. Like I say, that's what I want your definition of science, because
The UN and Sustainable Development Goals are political.
yeah, it's very good. Yeah, but I think it's very important that as a society, we're gonna have healthy debate. And ultimately that those decisions be made based on, I'm going to use the word strong science rather than true science. But we do have, as a society, it's important that we can debate climate change issues, climate change policies. Yeah, they affect everything we do.
And we have a climate change committee. But we're trying to address some issues that is can on a very local level. Anyway, I thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilor Rose.
Yeah, thank you very much for the information. I was just wondering, where do you think council should be, going with this? What's your, what would you like us to do? I guess is what I'd like to know.
Well, what I'd like you guys to do is not implement these sustainable development goals, which comes from the UN. And they have their political goals, which will infringe on all our freedoms, which will decide if we can have a shed on our property, if we decide we have chickens, if we decide we have a fence. This is all intrusive. I'd like you to stay away from that and talk to the people of Pictou County and see what they want.
Okay, and I see your hands over here. Go ahead, Councilor McKeel.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Thank you for coming tonight. I think it's very important that us as council be have different discussion and different perspectives. I think that's very important. My question was kind of along Councilor Boyle's lines of, as you're aware that we're entering into this land use planning, and you said there, just to not make sure that we don't implement the talking points that you talked about this evening about like the UN and making sure that, the land, don't take away the rights of our landowners. Is there anything else we as council can do to, in your opinion, to kind of look through this lens that you've given us tonight in our decision making?
I don't know what to tell you. Study this more and see what their real goal is, the world goal. They're doing it all over the world, and it's nothing to do with pollution or the environment. It's all to do with control. So they say the worst government is the one farthest away. Bad enough we had Ottawa, let alone UN, telling us how to run our lives. We won't be free. We got to do this ourselves.
Can I ask, Andrew, what led you to be passionate about this? Where'd you get started with this?
Well, where did it get started? It started long ago with the government infringing on our rights, and basically what I want in the long term is for our children to be as free as we were. They won't have the freedom we had if these goals are implemented. If we let the UN take control of our lives, I want our children to be as free as we were and our grandchildren. That's what it's all about.
Well, thank you for your comment. Thank you.
Okay, further questions for Andrew? Go ahead, Chester.
Thank you, Andrew, for coming up and giving us your insights on it. Several weeks ago, we had a vote on this, and what I can see is 45 years ago, they tried the same stuff, and they're just circling around a different way to do it, okay? Let's leave it alone for a while and come back again. And in some planning around towns or something maybe, but we start going out the country and telling people what they're going to do on their properties. I'm totally against it, and that's why I voted against it. Thank you.
I just like to comment on that. It's all about getting us dependent. They want us dependent on them. They don't want us to be independent. They don't want us in the country. They don't want us to grow a garden. They don't want us to have our own chickens. They want us to be dependent on them. And that's what it's all about, control, not about the environment or pollution. No one wants real pollution. CO2 is not a pollution, it's a gas of life.
Okay, any further questions at this time for Andrew? Seeing none, I will thank you, Andrew, for coming in and giving us your perspective. And thank you those who are with you tonight as well.
Thanks for listening.
Okay, we'll move right along into our resolutions. The first one, Councilor Boston, Community Generator Fund funds.
Mr. Chair. Council for the Municipality of the County of Pictou has created a community generator fund for $60,000 in the 2022-23 fiscal year, funded from surplus general funds or transfer from the general operating reserve. Council has determined that municipal grants provided to community centers will be no more than 10% of project costs to a maximum of $5,000. Be it resolved by the municipal council for the municipality of the county of Pictou accepts the following grant requests. Abercrombie Volunteer Fire Department, $5,000. Hillside Community Center, $2,500. Little Harbor Community Center, $3,000, $3,012. River John Volunteer Fire Department, $4,890. Scottsburg Volunteer Fire Department, $5,000. Dated at Pictou, Nova Scotia, this third day of April 2023. Signed by myself, Councillor Deborah Watson, and seconded by Councillor Levin.
I guess you heard the motion, the resolution should say, moved and seconded on the community generator funds to help out some of our communities to become centers when the next hurricane comes, that help look after people. Are there any questions or concerns to do with that resolution? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. So our next resolution, Councilor Palmer, student employment salary.
Thank you, Lord. Resolution be resolved by the municipal council for the municipality of County Pictou, the council adopt the following policy with respect to student employment. Policy number 2023-04-03. I'm just going to read changes. Change is number 5. Successful applicants will be chosen by respective supervisor. Number 6, the salary for the students shall be determined by the minimum wage for the province, Nova Scotia, plus $3. Dated Pictou, Nova Scotia, the third day of April 2023, moved by myself, Councillor Eddie Palmer, second by Councillor Darrell McKeel.
Second.
Okay, so that's the resolution on our student employment, and as Council Palmer said, the changes that are being made this year. Are there any, it's been moved to second now, so are there any questions or concerns with that resolution? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Carried. I'm pleased to say this year, I've seen the ads that we are hiring a fair number of students this summer. Certainly in various departments here at our municipal building, so I think that's good news for us to have those fresh minds here, but also good news for students in our county to have some employment for the summer. So we'll move right on into the PACE funding and interest rate approval. Councilor Turner.
Resolution, whereas the council for the municipality of the county of Pictou is working with the PACE Atlantic to administer a program on behalf of the municipality that will allow homeowners to borrow money to complete solar projects on their property and repay the loan over a period of time. Whereas the municipal investment in the program will leverage private equity at a ratio of 90% to 10% ratio. And the municipality does not need additional staffing resources as PACE Atlantic provides all the support. Therefore, be it resolved that the municipality budget of $250,000 towards the PACE program for its fiscal year 2023-2024, and that this program be funded through a loan from the generating operating reserve. Furthermore, be it resolved that the municipality charge 3.5% on the loan from the general operating reserve. Dated at Pictou, Nova Scotia, this third day of April 2023. Signed by myself, Councilor Mary Turner, seconded by Councilor Tiffany.
The reason that was hard to say, Councilor Turner, that it was supposed to be general operating reserve, not general. As long as it's general, you can get something good on it.
I just read it as it was.
Yeah, that's fine. So we have that resolution on our PACE program. It's a long time coming, but we're there. And so it's been moved and seconded. I have a question from Councilor Dave Park.
Thank you, Ward Parker. I'm in favor of the motion. I'm just wondering, does it say here, borrow money, put solar projects on their property? Do these projects have to be connected to the grid? Be a standalone solar project?
It was always meant to be hooked to the grid. I think I'm not saying it couldn't, because we haven't looked into that, but it was, and I know there's some limitations on how Well, asked me if you put a whole field on my, using our money, and that wasn't what it was meant for. It was meant for enough to do your home. But whether it had to be connected into those with power or not, I think we'll have to look into that, because I don't have an answer.
I guess my concern with the president is that we have a monopoly of electrical power. And if we wish to encourage even small scale production of electricity use for their own property, or they might want to sell it to a neighbor if they want to put up their own distribution system. That should be permitted. Only subsidized North Dakota Power. I'm not a fan of that entity. I would be voting against this. But I hope, so it seems to be open enough that you could in fact, homestead or whatever you want to call them. Someone who's independent minded, set up their own solar power system, run your own home, a small business, whatever, and not have to hook to the grid. It doesn't say it there, I will vote in favor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and Councilor McKeel.
Thank you very much, Gordon Parker. I too would agree with that, what Councilor Parker spoke on there. I think it's important that we have a clear policy in the fact that it should allow homeowners to put up solar off the grid as well. That is my feeling, for two reasons. A, part of my district is not part of the grid, Pictou Island. And second of all, I think it should be a person's choice if they want to be part of the grid or not. So I think that's important. Like our Council Parker said, because it's not in here. I will vote for this evening because I think it's a good place to start, but I believe we need to make that very clear if that's going to be included. And maybe come back and visit it as an amendment to the policy. Thank you.
Councilor McKeel, and I just spoke to the DAO for a minute. It's broad enough, we think that could be, it doesn't say you can't. No reason why if somebody applies and everything else looks good, then there's nothing there saying you can't. Deputy Warden Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. This resolution passes tonight. How soon will their applications can be received? I guess. Super staff.
June, the June. And the bylaw is not that specific to prohibit to somebody that's not connected to the grid from qualifying, so it's open. It's solar installations, it doesn't say that to be attached to the.
And Councilor Thompson.
Just on the resolution, when the PACE program we started talking about it back in 2017, it wasn't going to be for solar though, because most of, like it says, there's no reference to improved efficiency of the properties, which is just, I'm missing something here.
The bylaw that council passed is solar specific.
Why did they drop the whole notion of efficiency on it? Because you'll gain more improving the efficiency of your home than you will generating electricity. Why wasn't that part of this?
Yeah, I think at the time it was just a focus on solar, but that actually is a recommendation coming from PACE I think to broaden it, because there's a lot at this time, there's a lot of other grants and things available to deal with the efficiency side, which they can help people navigate through. So that will be a recommendation that is coming from them. But it was felt initially that it was focused on solar, and that's what council asked.
You could probably build a solar system on your roof to cut the cost of an inefficient home, but you might be able to lessen the size of your solar system to get to net zero if you did the efficiency work at the other end. So this is the half measure.
Okay, thank you for your opinion, Councilor Johnson.
Well, that's not an opinion.
Well,
Mr. Chair, it's only opinion. It's half measure.
it's by council approved, and it's what the committee, they took that over from the old energy committee, that's what they approved as well. And I think part of the idea was, let's get it going, let's get something going. A lot of people were trying to get solar, and they just didn't have the capital money to get it started. So let's get that money going, and then we can always add to it over time. Okay, any other questions on the motion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor? Against? Carried. Councilor Dave Barker, outside board nomination.
Resolution, be resolved by the municipal council for the municipality of Pembroke Picton. Council approve the following appointments through March 31st, 2025. The outside board, municipal audit committee. Appointment, Rick Behan. Climate change advisory. Annalee Calvis McCaffrey, Kyle McKenzie. Planning advisory, Earl Cameron. Reverend Guest Home, Earl Cameron. Hector Arena Commission, Dane Farkas. Police Advisory Committee, Gordon Gillis, Wayne Savage. Dated Pecklin S, that's the 3rd day of April 2023. So by myself, Councilor David Farkas, second by Councilor Mary Kelly.
So second.
So it's been moved and seconded for some of our nominations for the general public. There were various boards. Are there any questions or concerns on those nominations? Councilor Wood.
Yeah, I just have to repeat what I said at the meeting when we were checking these, is that we seem to be putting the same people on the board every year. I can see nobody else wants it. They're great, that's terrific. Well, somebody else is turned around and went to be on it. It's somebody on there for a long time. You know, how do we expect to get new people if we're just gonna always, you know, people just look at all the same person on who's put into that? So I think we better have a good look at, you know, these committees and what's wrong with them. Because we don't open it up for the other people, then it's going to be a, you know, sad situation, I think.
Thank you, Councilor Royals. Councilor Dave Barker.
I guess in defense of that, I will point out that 3 of the 7 are new people. I also, I believe, and I asked our 3 of our CAO, we not still have an opening on the planning advisory committee.
We do, and the advertisement is appropriate for that.
I would expect that as things speed up on the land use policy development, that might be a significant number of applications. But there are 3 out of the 7 here that are not repeating.
Okay, I'm just gonna check, see if anybody else wants first, for Councilor Royals, before I come back to you. Is there anybody else that wants to speak on those outside board nominations? No, I'll come back to you, Councilor.
Yeah, there's like the 3 new ones, but I don't think anybody wanted to drop, so that's why there's 3 new ones, because there was nobody that the ones who were already there didn't run for it, so they were put in for it. So we got 3 new ones. That's great. I'm just saying the other ones, we're trying to keep the same ones there every time, not giving them a chance. That's all.
Appreciate your concern. So if there's no further questions on that resolution, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Against? Motion carried. That's the end of the resolutions for this evening. And we'll move on to number 7 on our agenda. Concerns that Councilor Royals wanted to bring up to do with the SERB payments, a federal government payment that affects some of our residents. Go ahead, Councilor Royals.
Okay, thank you very much. As we know, the Canadian government gave on SERB payments to somebody for threatening the EI. They had no choice. They had to go on the SERB or get nothing. The government was telling us that they were trying to do something really good for our people in Canada and get some money in their pockets and help them out, so they weren't, you know, too strapped on this, when this pandemic hit. Now, 2 years later, the government is looking for these people to pay back anywhere from 2,000 to 6,000. I know I went to the EMP's office and asked them to give me something. We could never get anything on how to appeal it, but finally they came out with this letter they sent me the other day. But on it, they turn around and they say you can go from anywhere from 500 to 2,000. Well, that's not true. People getting, you know, hit with 6,000, and I mean, it's to me, it's hurting a lot of people. In 2022, I received my first complaint about this, and I contacted our MP, Sean Fraser's office, and was told that they didn't know how to appeal this, or even if you can. So, I mean, that's scary. I mean, the government just saying to us, listen, we say you owe it, you owe it. But that's the way this works, man. I'm scared. So I used the NEON application to appeal for one of my residents. Never heard back from from anybody until today. I found out that yeah, they come back and they said, yeah, they had made a mistake and that they were deducting it by so much. So right there, it tells me that a lot of these people that just turn around and get the $2,000 or whatever, or $500, whatever they had paid and paid it, might be paid money they don't even owe. So it's a government that's turned around and saying, you owe this and here you're going to pay it, but not showing you why or nothing. Now a student who is graduating after 4-year study from St. X in May 2023, who worked summer jobs and was expecting a big tax return that could help him pay off money he owes the university. He was told by the CRA after he filed his taxes that he owes the CERB $6,000 and he would not be getting a tax refund. So now he has to come up with $5,000 or not be able to walk across the stage and get his diploma, or even get his diploma until he pays the $5,000. So the university, he has landed a job, doing what he studied for, starting in December, but he has to have his diploma to show his employer. So this gentleman, he never sent him anything. They never told him that he owed anything, nothing, until he goes to file his taxes and then back tell him this. So, I mean, there's something desperately wrong with the whole situation. Why would this government that come up with the CERB payment to help Canadians, now want to cause them financial hardships? And that's exactly what they're doing. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, look at the price of groceries, look at the price of gas, look at the price of rent, look just everything. It's gone high sky. And then they go around and this sharing government now is saying, we want this money and that's it, And then somebody told me that they did put on this, I couldn't get this application off, but they say that it's 200, they want at least 200. Well, there's people that can't even afford $5 today. I mean, so it's ludicrous. The people that do owe CERB to our government should pay that. But don't just send them letters saying they owe the money back. I think the proper way the government should handle this is to send people a letter with the amount they owe and why they owe this amount. Not just take the government's word for it. They could give them a payment option as well as the information they need to ask for reconsideration. I think payment options should have been, anywhere $50 up to turn around and monthly and if it would or give them. I think there should be something on it too that if it's going to cause financial hardships to a family, then there should be something there that they ever to write in and ask for forgiveness. As long as they weren't ripping it off. If they done it, by getting their pay and plus getting hurt, yeah, okay, this is a different matter. But people that took this from them didn't know that they were gonna come for around saying, now we want it back. And you can, no, take your income taxes, or take your GSTs, we're taking everything from you. This is not right. I don't care what anybody says. I would like to make a motion that we send an email to the Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, or MP, as well as Sean Fraser, as well as CRA, asking them why there was no explanation in the letters why they owe the amount they said they owe. The serve back. Why there was no options for payment. And again, there should be options, from 50 up, I think, but there's no options for a payment plan. And why they don't have the information on the letter for reconsideration. And do they not know how much financial hardship they're causing? So I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter to these people and ask these questions and find out just what's going on and why they want to. This caring government now wants to turn around and hurt the same people that they were so much wanting to help.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Royal. So we have a motion on the floor, which is listed Councilor Board. Councilor Royal has stated to send a letter to the Prime Minister, the Finance Minister, and to our MP as well as CRA, requesting that they look into specific language that be reviewed. Is there a seconder for that motion?
I'll second here on the floor.
Okay, Councilor Turner. So the motion's been moved and seconded, that we send this letter. Is there any other questions or comments on it? Go ahead, Councilor Teal.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. I think that there's been quite a number of people that were on EI, that were on sick benefits, that get switched over to serve without knowledge or choice. And I think that it is surprising to them to be asked to pay it back. There's really no such thing as free money. And I think that when this was initially being handed out during the pandemic, a lot of people were very weary of, not even spending it because they were scared of this exact same thing that they were going to have to pay back. A lot of the people that were eligible for it, $2,000 a month or $2,000 is a lot to pay back for anybody, but especially those that really needed during the pandemic because they weren't working, they got shut down, or in service industries, certain offices, etc. And I think it's a lot to be paid back at once. I think payment plans, an explanation are very justifying things. But it is not truly surprising to see that we're here, that this is happening right now with this rollout. So thank you.
Go and Councilor Dave Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Ronan. I wanted to read two paragraphs from what was circulated regarding this overpayment situation. Service Canada will work with individuals to establish flexible repayment schedules where needed. No penalties or interest will be charged on these served overpayments. We encourage Canadians who have received notices of debt contact Service Canada. Discuss options available to them for repaying in a manner that is reasonable and flexible their respective financial situations. Any individuals who disagree with the overpayment notice may request the reconsideration of the decision. Request for reconsideration should be submitted within 30 days after the decision was communicated. If the request for reconsideration is submitted after 30 days, the individual must provide a reason for the delay. Service Canada will still accept the request if it is determined that there is a reasonable explanation for the delay. Additional information, including how to request reconsideration, is available online at his website. I guess my point is that we're asking whoever authorities to do what they're already trying to do here. Try to be flexible. I'll give you a process by which you can appeal. the one to work with you, come up with a payment schedule that you can do. Now, there's no doubt this happened 3 years ago. I know one case personally, not myself, but close relative. They were told they're not on EI anymore, you're not served. A whole lot of money appeared in her account. She was very much afraid to spend it. They would want it back, they have demanded something like that. Just saying the rest of do, sometimes I overdo. I agree that receive overpayments, should have to pay it back. They're very little. By that, I mean, there's no penalties, there's no interest. You're gonna be to pay, you get to agree to it, you pay it back $2 a month for the next 200 years. That's all paid off. This is not the debt, that's the problem. So I think they are being somewhat reasonable, but if you think this will hold it along, I'm not gonna vote against.
Okay, any other, concerns, questions to do with the motion on the table? Go ahead, Mary.
There was very clear and strict criteria for anyone drawing the CERB. And they were very vocal, saying that if you did draw the CERB and you didn't qualify, that you would end up paying the fines back. And they also stated that anyone could call on their own behalf and discuss the situation before drawing the CERB to make sure that they did meet the criteria so they wouldn't end up paying it back. So I will not be supporting the motion here.
Okay, thank you. Any, go ahead, Deputy Ward Marks.
Thank you. I'd like to support the motion if we take the paragraphs, 2 paragraphs through the questions that Dave just brought over there. It's already in the motion that is in there. I support it. That was in there, but that's in there. It's already.
Probably gonna come back, Kelly. I think that's, I'm gonna come back to you then, Councilor Boyles, in order to get, or here for the motion to get it through. Would you be willing to take out the part that, Councilor Dave Parker referred to? It seemed to be saying.
Get it through, but just I'd like to say something first before.
Okay.
And that is, as Councilor Elliott said, they were qualified, they had chances to check, see if they qualified and all this stuff, and to make sure they weren't getting it. These people are not getting it because they didn't serve. We have people that from medical society, dentists, you know, the people working against the field that had to turn around and come off of work. And they put them on the serve, they didn't want serve, they wanted EI. They wanted EI right from day one, but no, you have to serve. This is it, you got to one. So they turn around, they go on. So it's not like they're out there. We knew we were going to, this was going to happen, that's going to happen. No, they never. This was no way, and I know that for a fact. Also, free money, I think they weren't looking at it as free money. These people mostly, and it's to say there is some people out there that rip it off. Like, I'm not saying there's not, but I'm saying that most of the people that I talk to anyway, they wanted EI. They don't want free money. They wanted what any one of us were. We were working on a job and we got laid off tomorrow and we couldn't work. We have their EI. That's all they wanted. But they come up with this. They served that they were going to help everybody get it and know what they were going to do for them. What did they do for them? They turn around and get people losing their income taxes and everything because they turn around and they owe this serve thing. But that's as Councilor Parker said there, within 30 days, there was no. But this was just set up this that he's referring to because I just got it. That's why I gave it to the super pass around. Just where was it at all along? I've been asking for it now for over a year. You know, there was nothing. They didn't even know nothing could be done. And all of a sudden I go home and take the council and they come up with this. Is this accurate? I don't know if it's accurate. I don't see no heading on where it's from anybody or anything. It's just some rules and regulations that they say are there. We don't know whether they're or not. We've got no idea in the world they are. And the 30-day things, they're all over the 30 days. So what are they going to have to do in it, right? And a lot of people out there don't have the education or the experience to be able to do this. They turn around, they're losing everything.
Don't want to cut you out, Councilor Wells, but I just wanted to come back to you to see if it was all right to change the motion, and then I'll finish up with you.
Well, how you going to change that?
Pardon me?
How you going to change it?
Well, take out what Councilor Dave Parker referred to, which was the, to give them a time payment and work with them on that.
During these years there, and it's David said, we don't know how the 30-day thing is gonna work out. They're taking their income tax and they're taking their GSTs now, they're taking them. But they were asked to come around and give us this, give us why they did it.
We either leave it the same as you originally had, or we take that's what I'm hearing. Councilors are willing to support. Can't say that.
Well, even if you take that out, you have to, and then all these for granted, but find it that a bunch of corrupt, that they do give something to shut it up. But we can get back.
Put it in the ones or later.
Yeah.
So I need permission from Councilor Turner to change that motion. Who is the secretary?
Can I get it read back to me, please?
Okay. Who's in charge of reading back the motion?
Try.
Okay, try. We'll eliminate Councilor Dave Parker.
So the original motion, Councillor Boyles, was to send the Prime Minister, MP, Minister of Finance, and CAR asking why no explanation in letters were given for the amounts, no option for payment plans, and they don't have info in the letter for reconsideration. So the new motion would be to take out the no option for payment plans, is that correct?
I believe that was the crux of it, that they were doing that anyway. They were willing to talk to people about restructuring. So we'd strike that part.
So the letter would be asking why there was no explanation in the letters as to the amount that they owe, and the letter didn't have any info on consideration.
Okay, we'll go with that as the motion. Councilor Turner, are you all right with that?
But there is. Claim 0 reconsideration. So that reconsideration. No penalties or interest will charge. Isn't that reconsideration? That's reconsideration. I agree with the first part. But in terms of consideration, that's the point that Councilor Parker.
Is that the same point you made, Councilor Dave Parker? Is that reconsideration should be taken under?
That's reconsideration.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Yeah, my point is that there is two specific paragraphs in there. How we're going to treat people that have a concern. They're sort of asking them to, redo that, or it seems very clear to me that they have a process in there where you can get consideration and you can get a flexible payment plan. Have to, work with that. But anyway, I'm not opposed to the concept of shaking their rabbit in the cage. They make this more clear, make more clear for those who are being asked to pay back money, how they can have reconsideration. There are processes in it.
Might actually, the letter might actually help boost them some to give people that long time, more flexible with people, but I'm going back to you again, Councilor Turner, because you were secretary, and I want to be sure that you are still seconding that motion.
So can you just read the very first part to me again, please?
So to send the Prime Minister, MP, Minister of Finance, and CAR a letter asking why no explanation was given to the letters on the amount that was owed back.
That's fine.
So that.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councilor Teal.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. I don't know if anybody around this table has any experience with trying to had someone in their family or had someone close to them that received CERB that was on a different type of program and didn't know they were switched over and is trying to, what's one of the paragraphs there, trying to understand why they were placed on it. Multiple calls to CRA, nothing gets done. It's very frustrating. I think that needs to stay in there. If you ask me, I think that, like Councilor Boyle said, this is a newer document, but people have been trying to do this for quite a while without this document, and it has not been an easy process on them. it is not just a matter of calling up and being reconsidered. It's a matter of calling and calling and calling and calling and then getting another letter and nothing's been done. So I think it's important that we keep that in the motion. Thank you.
So just to be clear, Councilor McKeel, what part do you want left in the motion? And you said it's important to keep that in the motion.
About the reconsideration.
Reconsideration?
Yeah, because I think that's the tricky part is that, you know, people have been calling CRA to discuss this, not necessarily talking about the repayment part of it. And their case doesn't get moved along. And they call back again, and nobody knows what they're talking about, even though they're waiting for somebody to call them back and waiting for a decision. So I know it's, in hearing some experiences that I have heard personally, I think it's important to keep that in the motion.
That's where the phone or the letter might help some, is give them a push to help people with the reconsider, the video, a more thorough or better job or whatever, make sure people get looked after. I was just reminded by our CAO that the motion shouldn't say CRA because they only collect the money. They don't change anything. It should be Service Canada.
Okay.
I didn't realize that myself, but it's Service Canada that would make any changes. Sometimes government can say we're gonna do all kinds of stuff. And sometimes need a push at the local level to actually do it, rather than just say we're gonna do it and everybody, you know, gets put up. Was there another question, Councilor Watt?
You don't send the letter where this information came from.
They were the individuals or?
Well, no, the letter, like you said, there's no letter, no nothing. Who received the letter?
But Peter had tonight, I mean, no, I don't think, you don't.
I received it from Sean Fraser.
Name for John Bridges up.
Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, the service put in place, it was a quick and dirty fix to what we were going through with the pandemic. And I thought that was really important. People were out of work. They still needed money to pay rent, to buy food, to look after their families. The service was put in there for a quick fix. There were flaws in it, and we all understand that. And they were told right from the get-go that if you didn't serve, you would be bought back. It morphed into the EI because there's no way to get it out to them quick enough without using bulk payment every couple of weeks. So they did what they had to do. I think this came from Sean's office. I think it's clear and clearly stating the two issues that we're dealing with is the repayment and the reconsideration. So I really don't think, I don't see any reason to send another letter off to the Prime Minister concerning CERB and everything. They've already stated this is what's going to work. It's probably still getting all the kinks out of the system, but I think they are making every effort to make this an easier way for people to get their repayments paid back. So for that reason, I can't support the motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions on the motion? Okay, I don't see any, so I think we'll have the vote on whether to send the letter to the people that stated for the purpose of the state.
You said you were gonna give me another.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, Council White just said there, you know, the money here that for money, you know, people, and rent, people had to turn around and get people had to do this and that, you know, so government so nice to do it. Now the people turn around, everything's high sky, they can't pay rent, they can't get groceries, they can't turn around and get spare. They got nothing because, and now the government wants to claw more money back from them. If that's smart, I don't know. You know, and I agree with you know, with Darla that, you know, I mean, this is causing a lot of financial hardships on a lot of people. And I mean, for all we're asking is just to send a letter. If it's already repeated, big deal, it's repeated. Just to ask them to do something and try and tell people why they owe this money. If somebody sent me something, here's why you owe it. I said, okay, then I understood it. And this is your options. Then I know what my options are. Look, no, but that's not the way it is. Here you owe $2,000. Here you owe $500. Here you owe $6,000. No explanation, no nothing. So that's what I'm trying to say. We got to get it clarified to try and get it clarified. These people get their GST and their income taxes down to help them out. And then if they spelled it out better, then people would know, and people would like to say, yeah, sure, okay, I'm gonna go for $50 or $25 or whatever they turn around and they would put on it. But you know, the way it is right now, anyone that turns around and would argue about sending a letter to the, to try and help these people, I hate to send it anywhere.
Okay, I'm gonna call for the vote. All those in favor? Yeah, I'm gonna ask you to put your hands up. All those in favor? Let's have you down here, or somebody get it down. Hands up.
What are you for?
Six. All those against? Okay, the motion lost, so the 6-6.
Already shows which one it is.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next agenda item, which is our council visioning report. And so I think everybody's aware of, council's aware of what we're talking about. We sent,
Slaughter, I was not gonna call it one, I wasn't certain what to call it. But slaughter.
I think it would.
No,
Yeah, but it would. We get people up there, we're supposed to be here helping people. What are we doing?
one more.
okay, order. Please, we do have to try and, be courteous to each other in what we say. It's never nice if your vote doesn't go your way, but we do, it is important that council, remain courteous.
We're just trying to sort out what you guys said because we can't hear everything.
Can you hear us?
Some of it we can't hear,
Yeah.
really hard to hear.
We're trying to.
So it was a tie. It was a tie, so what happened?
Aren't you supposed to be able to break the tie?
Yeah, no, it's time vote.
Tie's the lost vote.
Don't discuss, yeah, we're not supposed to discuss with the public what we're doing here, but I am concerned you can't hear us. So everybody, please try and speak up and speak directly in your mics. We have these mics to try and amplify the voice in here a little bit, but we're sometimes not, maybe paying attention to the fact that we're not sitting close enough to them. So we want you to be able to hear what we're saying, but we're not allowed to converse back and forth during the meeting.
Well, we were just trying to figure out what you guys were saying and that was the most.
No, I appreciate that, but just to clarify, a tie vote is a lost vote in the way council works. So the council visioning report, we worked on this with Mr. Gallant for the last month and a half, I guess, or more. And so tonight we're at the point where we have the report, final report from Mr. Gallant. And so what we're looking for tonight is simply to endorse that report. In other words, this is what we agreed to. Not that everybody agreed to everything on there, and it wasn't everybody's top priority, but the objective is to look forward as a council for the next year and a half, what's left in our term. What is it that's most important to do, to work on for our county for the next year and a half, but also some longer term visioning. So when the next council comes in a year and a half's time, we have some stuff started that they can work on. They could either choose to say, no, thank you, we're going a different way. Or there's some stuff started that they continue to work on. One that's been mentioned a fair amount tonight is the land use planning. So that's we know that's a high tension issue in this county and that it's going to require a lot of work. So that's down as one of our, I think our second one, I don't know if those are prioritized, but it's the second one on your list there. It is going to be a big part of our work over the next year and a half, and Councilor Randy Palmer will be leading that as chair of the Planning Advisory Committee. And we certainly want to listen to the public on this one. We know what this developed into in the 70s. We don't want to go back there. We want to give people a chance to have their say. And we should reflect that say. There's a big part in there on community halls, community recreation areas. It's very important that we try and build our communities. People want to live in our rural areas. They want to live in our communities. We have to make sure that the things that are needed are there. And certainly that includes places to go when the big storms come. So we're vaccinated with the generators, which will help make them a better place to go to. But also need recreation, not just recreation, need a place for people to go. A lot of people in our communities are lonely. A lot of people are alone. And we need to do, we've always funded our community halls quite a bit, but we need to come up with new things to do to make those better centers for our communities. And there's a number of others in there. They're all important. The one on mental health, I guess especially important to me, we all have our favorites, but, it was declared, I think, by the casualty commission the other day, the, emergency or whatever in our communities. And I don't think people doubt that too much, that mental health is a very serious concern in our community, not just in this county, but right across our province and our country. So that visioning, I think, is there now, and what we're looking for is endorsement of it. And then perhaps at our next, when we're setting up for our next committee meeting, we can dig into that and try and, we need to prioritize. We have a lot of stuff on there, we need to prioritize. What are the two things maybe that we really need to get to work on? What are the things that we can work on over a little bit longer period of time? I'm just trying to give you an idea of what we're looking for tonight. So is there anybody has any questions or concerns about what Frank Deland sent out the final report on our visioning process? It goes into a lot of detail. Councilor Dave Burke.
My biggest concern by far is on the land use planning process. I just want to state very clearly. This is mandated by province of Nova Scotia. If you have a problem with it, if you talk to Carla McFarland in Houston, that we have a problem. All we're doing, or we've been told that we must do, work through a process to give people an opportunity and input the plan they can live with, the one they want, one they can live with. And needs to be made very clear at every opportunity. This is a forced promise. Don't like it. Need to explain to the MLA's office. Thank you.
Okay, on the overall visioning process, and I only sense with you, I know safety, community safety in our rural areas is another real big concern. And it is for a lot of people, but, yeah, that's what this is all about. What are the concerns in our communities? What should we focus in on right now? What can we do over a little bit longer period of time? Go ahead then, Councilor McNeil.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morgan. I think I was, you know, if I'm honest, I wasn't super excited about this process. But I can say that on the other side of it now, I'm glad we went through it. And I think this year captures a lot of what we discussed. I think for me, I was approaching it looking through a rural lens of taking these important issues, but making them specific to our residents and things that we can actually do to help. Some things, key points that can actually make a difference in our communities and help our rural communities flourish again and to bring back that sense of community. I talked a lot about in our smaller groups about having that rural perspective. I think although we don't want to, you know, quote unquote, go back in time, I think it's important that there are many values and many things that we did within our communities that brought such a strong sense of community back then. And I think having this community connectivity involvement, number one on our list, I think is really important to me and means a lot to me. And hopefully this will mean that we can help our communities thrive, continue to thrive, and help ones that used to thrive. So, thank you.
Yeah, I think the word rural communities flourishes. What you said there, that's what we need to do. We have people moving here from all over the country, and they're looking for a sense of small community and whatnot. So, some of what we had in the past is almost what they're looking for. And so we don't need to move all the way back, as you said, but we bring back some of what was good in the past. Any other comments at this time? Go ahead, Councilor Butler.
Yes, Mr. Warden, I understand we're not selecting our priorities this evening, but I would like to speak in favor of the first one for a number of reasons. I think that that's a topic that is dear and near to all of us, and because you keep thinking back to your own community when you think about improving. the quality of life in rural communities. It's sort of, I think it's a topic that we could all get enthusiastically behind. And as perhaps we may see from time to time, we need a topic like this to unite the board. And I think that it will be a good place to start with this particular topic.
Okay, for that, anything that would unite is a good thing. Any other comments on our revisioning report tonight before we go ahead to Deputy Ward Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Orley. Do we need any motion to accept this as an
I think we need a motion to endorse it.
revision? I'm so with that.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded that we endorse our visioning process, and that sort of puts it officially in the council, and then we can move on with the work. The next committee meeting. Any other comments, this time? Okay, if not, I'm gonna call for the vote. All those in favor of, endorsing the visioning report, please say aye. And those against? Carried. Now, we have a request from the Pictou County Chamber of Commerce Awards group sponsorship, looking for a sponsorship for, I think it's, is it still electricity? Not electricity. Okay. I probably should know which one it's for. It probably was in my meeting there, but I forgot. Chamber of Commerce hands out awards to try and encourage businesses in our county. Each year they have an awards ceremony, and we in the past have usually sponsored one of those awards. Just
Last year, it was changed from the Big Business Award to the
entrepreneur of the Year award then, and so that's held, I think, in over the next month or two. Time.
The reason it was put here tonight.
But it been in this time, okay. And the amount of money is 1,500 is the amount of money we have to sponsor that award. I think we can go to for the entrepreneur in our county, and we always need more of those for sure. Does anybody have any questions? And go ahead, Councilor Palmer.
I'll make a motion that we sponsored for $1,500.
Yeah, that's Chamber of Commerce entrepreneurship award for $1,500. Is there a seconder for that? Okay, Mary, thank you. And are there any questions or comments on that, Councilor Dave Fair?
Again, I'm not opposed to the motion, especially it's not an entrepreneur of the year award. But I've been with these several before. Very, very, very little recognition. The other side of the patents. A major contributor should be directing our award if possible. And maybe we need to start a category of rural entrepreneur of the year or the rising rural startup of the year. Just think, quite often, people that are outside of the towns do our own.
Okay, I don't know if we can change that for this year at this time, because our CEO said we're in limited time here now. I think it'd be something, in my opinion, it's something to have more discussion of going into another year. If we wanted to do that. I don't think any of their other awards are necessarily targeted anywhere. It may seem to us, you remember that they are going more towards some areas than others, but I don't know that. I guess I would suggest that if we want to ask about that with the chamber, rather than just say we're not giving money or we're giving up a certain condition, would be to go ahead for this year where it's that close, and then maybe have that discussion for another year. That'd be reasonable.
I said I wouldn't oppose the motion. I would like to
Thank you.
push to have, or maybe we need to think about category two, let's call it. Correct.
Okay, Okay, but the motion right now is simply to support what is here, which is to donate $1,300 to the entrepreneurship award for this year. Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Gates? Carried. Are there any community announcements? Okay, Councilor. Teal.
Yes, Warren, thank you. Picton North Colchester Exhibitions having a pancake brunch Saturday, April 8th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Caribou Fire Hall. And adults are $10, kids 6 to 12 are $6, and kids under 5 are free. Pancake, sausage, beans, tea, coffee, juice, and dessert. That's this Saturday,
Okay, and that was what time it is?
9 to 1.
Okay,
Big fundraiser for the exhibition.
yes, and they need it. They did have a good year this year, but we're glad of that, but we have to keep in good shape. Any other community announcements? Mary, go ahead.
Thank you. Melville Seafoam Community Hall is having a chili supper in support of the hall. And it's going to be April 16th. That falls on a Sunday. And the time is 11 to 2. The cost is $12. It's chili, a homemade biscuit, and dessert. You can pre-order at a number of 902-890-0240, or you can purchase the day of. Thanks.
So is it an eat-in or just a takeout?
Takeout only.
Takeout only, but you can purchase them that day. That's the Meadowville Law. What's the date again?
16th. I'll come pick you up. Melville Seafoam.
Yeah, they said, I don't know.
Oh, it's not Meadowville Law. Okay, Meadowville. See, okay, we got it right down. Okay, any more community announcements this evening? Go ahead, Councilor Butler.
Yes, Mr. Warden, I'd like to remind folks of the salmon supper in Lismore on Sunday, the 16th of April, from 2 to 4, and the brother from 4 to 6 in the afternoon. And so anyway, a full hot meal. The other thing I'd like to mention is, it's not really an announcement, but it's some good news that we sometimes work and make motions around this table, and it's nice to hear the finished product. A couple of years ago, I guess, we made a motion that there should be a study done by the Department of Transportation to look at the safety issue on the intersection of Highway 245 and Trunk 4. That study was done and the recommendations came forward positively, and in the past 10 days, lights have been put up so that if you're coming out of 245, then you have a caution red light facing you. And if you're driving on the trunk trunk number 4, you have a flashing amber light. So it's a step forward, and it was partially because of what we did.
That is good news for sure, and I'm sure that lives will be saved there eventually. We just won't know what happens, but these types of improvements, happen quietly, and it just means some lives are saved on the floor or some bad accidents anyway. So that is good news here that down your area, Councilor. Any further community announcements this evening? Okay, hearing none. We'll move right on to emergency resolutions, and unanimous consent is required to have an emergency resolution. Are there any emergency resolutions this evening? Seeing none, at this point, I will declare our meeting adjourned, and I thank you all for coming, and thank you for this evening.
Thank you.
It's like-